Satej Chakma. Thank you. So, Mr. Chakma is a sub-editor, Indigenous Peoples News in Bangladesh, and Satej Chakma is a young Indigenous journalist with experience in the field of reporting on Indigenous people's issues. He loves
প্যারিজত ইউনেস্কো জেনেভা সম্মেলনত সতেজ চাকমা নামে আমাৰ বাংলাদেশের বিভিন্ন সম্প্রদায়ের সংখ্যালঘু আদিবাসী দুঃখর কথা তুলে ধরছে কয় ব্যাকুনে দেগন পারা জানি পারন পারা এই ভিডিও ব্যাচ করে শেয়ার করে দিও বাংলাদেশত 18 কোটি বাঙাল লয় বলেননি আমি মারামারি করি তারা লগা জিন্দং নয় আমার দুঃখর হতা যদি ইন্টারন্যাশনালভাবে প্রকাশ করে পারে দিয়ে হয় সকেনে ইউরোপ আমেরিকা আমার ফাঁসেন দিয়ে থাকব সবকে থারা লগা আমি জিনিবঙ্গে এদিক করে বলেননি মারামারি করি জিন্দং নয় সতেজ চাক মানে আমার ব্যাকুণের ফকতন সিদ্দিগল হজপান্না বালিতে জানাঙর ধন্যবাদ
The Indigenous Peoples News publication has drawn attention to significant matters in Bangladesh. What training and support are needed to enable Indigenous media professionals, particularly young people, to continue amplifying these stories? And then the second part of that is, could you please provide more details about your ongoing capacity building efforts? But let's get to that first question first.
Thank you very much. Juzu, Indigenous greetings in Chakma language. So I'm very much honored to be here in such kinds of international stage from Chitang Hultrex, Bangladesh. So before going back, going to the capacity building efforts that we are conducting in our country through Indigenous Peoples News of Bangladesh, so I think I should discuss about the Indigenous people's ground realities, what is happening to the Indigenous people's lives. First of all, I think you may know that there are 54 Indigenous communities in our country. So they live in different pockets of our country. But historically, like the other Indigenous peoples of all over the world, they are also struggling for their identity and also recognitions. First of all, you know that in 1971, when Bangladesh became independent, at that moment there was a promise to establish equality, social dignity, and also human rights for all the citizens of the country. But after 1 year of the independence, what we witnessed that during the framework of the constitutions of our country, so the then rulers actually, they imposed the Bengali identity over the Indigenous peoples. So in the constitutions, they have written that all the peoples of Bangladesh shall be known as Bengalis. So my identity actually was abolished there. So from that situation, actually, we are struggling for our self-identity and also recognitions of our indigenous land rights systems, management systems, everything, and also our civil and political rights. So the region, Chitang Hultrex, from here actually I came from, is a highly militarized regions in the world. So there, every six indigenous person have one army to keep us in surveillance in each and every time. So we are obviously fighting for our self-determinations in our own regions. So as you know that military always try to intervene in our every daily life. So we are also fighting for the demilitarizations of our country. So you know, we also witnessed a long period of insurgency in our regions from 1976 to 1997. We actually fought against the state military because the military actually started to increase their coverage over the indigenous people's territory by grabbing the land of the indigenous peoples, intervening their daily lives. And you know, in 1997, so Bangladesh government forced to sign an accord which is called the Chitang Hultrex Peace Accord. So for this accord, UNESCO actually awarded the then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for the peace award. But the thing is, after the 27 years of the signing of the accord, there is no peace in our regions. So first of all, the militarizations, and second, you know that the mainstream media don't actually cover our issues in our with the actual things. So there is also fragmentations and fabrications of our indigenous people's issues in the mainstream media. So we are also fighting for our building narrative for the indigenous peoples. And you know, every mainstream media actually, they are patronized by the corporate houses. So we see them as an intellectual army of the corporate houses. So most of the corporate houses actually involved in grabbing the land of the indigenous peoples. So we have to cover the news against those corporate houses also. So we are fighting for the mainstream media at the same time. So in these things actually, in this verse, I would like to say about our capacity building programs, capacity building efforts, what we are conducting in our country. The thing is, first of all, our target is to involve the indigenous youth with the indigenous media first. Because you know that if we don't cover our own issues by our own lands and landscape, then there is no one to cover our issues. You know, there is a report that, in this report, they picture that rice and wine is the main food of the Chakma indigenous community. So they actually have written such kinds of fragmented way. But against this actually, we are building the capacity of the indigenous youth. So for these reasons actually, we are giving them training on the basics of journalism, and also how to write the reports and the storytelling method. You know, the indigenous peoples have their oral story writing systems on their own. So we are trying to bring those stories from oral to written way. And also, you know, indigenous peoples are, most of the times, they actually face human rights violations. So we always need to document such kinds of human rights violations, what's happening in our regions. And you know, most of the indigenous youths of the and also indigenous peoples think that it is very natural that we will be the victimized of human rights violations, land grabbing, such kinds of things. They think that all those are very natural and normal. But we are trying to make them understood that these are not natural, these are not the normal issue. So we are trying them to see those issues from the third eye, so that these issues can be reported in the media landscape. And we are also giving training to the indigenous youth to the effective use of technology. But the thing is, we don't have such capacity in terms of the speech. We are managing our media outlets by only using a single room in our country, and also with only a desktop. So we are trying to bring the stories of the ground realities of indigenous peoples. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're going to